Hey everybody, I'm Lex.
Just saw Colby's eye. I'm Shane. Just saw Colby's like, what did you just say?
His eyes got really big.
Did that just break the rules of the studio?
It might have.
Nah, it might have.
It might have. It's Q&A today, man.
Yeah, it is. PDQ A. Ask your questions. And you know what? Just got to say congrats to St. Louis fans out there winning the Stanley Cup. Well, you didn't win. Your team won. I guess it was the first time I watched the game.
Oh, did you? Was it good?
Yeah, it was. Well, not if you ask a Boston fan.
That's
but they won in Boston. My two teams that I love weren't in there, so I didn't really have a dog in the race. Yeah. You know, Tampa Bay and Vegas. But hey, props to you guys. Congrats. We in Utah don't know what it's like to win a national championship, so.
Except for our soccer team. I did watch
that.
I did watch that game.
Yeah, we did that one. No, we did that one.
Only. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a soccer team?
There you
all
go.
Right.
There you go.
We'll
right now, Hanks is dying. Anyway, if you have any questions, by all means, now is the time to throw down.
Bring it on.
Dear Shane and Lex, can I put the database in a D drive or another server for a specific database? What is the best practice for dealing with PDQ databases? Sincerely, the great composer, Wagner A.
Hey, Wagner. That's awesome. I didn't know we had composers here. All right. The answer is yes and no. So if you want to move to D, or more appropriately, if you want to move to a local drive, then yes, it's supported. If you go into preferences in database, you'll see the database is listed there. You can change the database location, right?
You can move it. That's the yes part.
That's the yes part. The no part is if you're trying to put it on a shared drive, trying to put it on a network drive. This is still SQLite, and SQLite does, once you put it on a shared drive, then you can get some corruption pretty fast, because kind of the mechanism that's used to make sure that there's only one, it's only being written to once. You can start getting multiple writes at the same time, because the other consoles are trying to write to it. Mm-hmm. When you've got, it's just hard to.
Shane and I were writing the same record.
Yeah, it's not supported. You can have some corruption. So you want to move it to a different location. C is not optimal as long as it's local, and then you want to use multiple consoles. Just make sure you use central server
mode. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're good, because even central server mode, the cool thing is, there's still only the one background service that is controlling access to that database. Mm-hmm. So all the other consoles simply make requests to that one service. When you put it on a shared database somewhere, and maybe other, not just consoles, but other servers access it, that's when you're definitely going to see some
traffic cop controlling that at that point.
So the answer is yes and no.
Hey, Shane and Lex, how can we audit PDQ usage by admin? We need to make sure that those technicians who have licenses are actually using the tools. We have a couple central server setups to audit. We divide by domain to keep the numbers manageable. Sincerely, the lovely Kathleen F.
Hi, Kathleen. Colby? Do we have anything like, I know we can see current. Do we have anything out there? Do you know?
Yes, actually there is a table in the database called console users info, and it does actually track this.
It's called console users. Let's just check this out. I'm going to run. I'm sorry. What was that? What was that question, JJ?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, do we have that script in the bonus content?
Not yet.
I doubt it.
I'm just going to
SQL console there.
Yeah, I'm going to click SQLite console. What's it called again?
Console users info.
Yep.
Okay, so here, we've got one, and this doesn't just show the current. This shows all of them. Is it what does it show? Does it show just the last log on, or what?
Oh, if you do .headers on.
Oh, okay.
Then it'll show you all the headers.
There we go. Little extra.
Username,
okay, so
access. There you go.
All right. Thank you very much. So it is. There's build a script, or we don't have an interface to it other than SQL. Thanks, Colby. I learned something.
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
inventory, you can do that from a SQL report, but for deploy, you will have to directly access the database.
Thank you. That's a good point. With a SQL report, there's a lot you can access. It can get a little hairy. This one is going to be fairly straightforward, but there are some SQL reports if you use that yeah, you're going to be
Joins and-
be into a world of SQL pain, which actually turns
Inner
people
joins,
like
outer joins.
Stephanie going, "Oh yeah,
I love that.
I like that pain," and then others just end up getting the dull stare of a dairy cow and move on. Anyway, next question.
Dear Shane and Lex, can we create a custom tool within inventory that will run security scans on a machine? Thanks, Mark K.
Hey, Mark. Okay, so I'm going to channel my inner Chris here. It depends on whatever security software you're using.
Yep.
Here's effectively the answer. If there's a command line that you can run, especially if it's non-interactive, if there's a command line that you can run for any utility on a target machine, or even on your server that connects to a target machine, then the answer is yes. So all custom tool is really, it's like we have people that want to use. We don't use remote desktop. We don't use VNC. We have other remote control tools. How can I use inventory to connect to that? Does your remote control tool have a command line to connect to a computer? If so, we've got the variables there. You can make it work. Yeah. So thank you for popping that up. On whatever security tool you're looking for, Mark, look up the command line. Find those commands. Run them before you commit them here. See how it works. If it needs to run locally on a machine, or you can run it to connect to a machine, it's all up to you.
Very important here. If it needs to be run on the end node machine that you run it on,
Executed on that one.
yes, make sure you pick remote here. Otherwise, if you leave it at local, and then you select 8 or 9 machines, you're going to run it 8 or 9 times on the
Correct.
console.
So remote means the tool will actually make a connection to that remote machine, use a variable, and then it will execute it as though it were being executed there. Local, there's still a lot of local commands. I mentioned the remote control stuff. Local is you're running a command on the server that has in the command the ability to go out to a target, perhaps. Then you can say, yeah, I'm going to run this locally because the program runs locally, et cetera. There's use cases for each.
Yep.
And system, just so you know, while we're here, go ahead and drop that down again. System is something like we have people that create a system tool to like open Active Directory users and computers. You don't need to connect to a computer. It's just a shortcut, effectively. You can just build a shortcut to launch stuff. System does not require that a computer is selected to run it. Go ahead.
Dear Shane and Lex, is there a script available that can close web browsers to allow you to uninstall a hijacker or pup malware, such as Mindspark, then restart the browser? Thanks, Thomas T.
I guarantee there's a script available. Whether we have one here, no. That we might. I'll look for anybody on the chat to pipe in. But here's what you're going to want to do. Go ahead and pull that question back up if you don't mind, real quick. So yes, you can, whatever browsers you're using, you can use PowerShell or you can use command line to just kill that. Thank you. This is a command line running task kill /f or /im, meaning image or the name of the process. And you can see that we're killing a bunch of different processes, all of them.
In this case, Java
with a
stuff.
/im. There's also a /pid if you happen to know the process ID. That's usually something that you would do as part of a for loop. Anyway, you can kill it, then install it. Now, opening, if you're going to open it, this is something that's going to probably want to be done from the context of like a PDQ deploy package, because to open a browser, it needs to be opened in the context of the user that's currently logged on.
Absolutely.
So what you'd want to do, perfect, you've got one. It's going to be grayed out because we haven't. This is from the package library.
Yep.
But in the options, when you see the run as, you'd want to. Hell, I'm just going to
Grab this guy here. My
Just
reboot
gonna do
script.
this one.
There you go.
And I'm just going to go to a command here. In the options, when you run the command, do a run as logged on user, and then change it in the conditions to only run that step,
If user
only
is
run if
logged
a
on.
user is logged on. At that point, it won't run if no one's logged on, but if Lex is logged on, then it will start up as Lex. So that's the one little gotcha. Is anything you'd like to add, Colby or Lex?
No.
Nope.
Nope. Okay, good.
What he said, that's what I want to add. How's that?
Just if you tried to start that without running it in the context of another user, then it will start the process, but they won't see it because it's going to be started most likely by a service as the deploy user
Yep.
or whatever user connected. So you'll be going, something's not working. Anyway, next.
Dearest Shane and Lex, are Windows 10 version updates available to deploy through PDQ somewhere, or does the package need to be manually built? Sincerely, Ray C.
So I guess you're talking about upgrading from one version to another, like
Yeah.
like 1607 to 1803 or something like that, right? We don't offer those in the package library. We do have customers that use it. Here's one of the problems with doing that. Now, we have a lot of customers that say they do it successfully, but there's like one caveat here. When you're talking about such you're effectively talking about an
OS
upgrade to an OS, or a new an upgrade in place. What's going to happen is we can kick that off. By we, I mean PDQ deploy. But PDQ deploy does wait for eventual return of information to say this was successful or not successful, and here's the return code. On something like this, it's gonna it'll take a while. It will never get that back. So it will just effectively, according to the console, it'll probably just time out.
Timeout.
And
It could happen because it reboots and it starts another process that we don't know about. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot going on in the background.
we handle, and we can kind of handle reboots to a degree.
True.
That's why there's a reboot step. But those OS upgrades are kind of tough. So we have customers that push them out, knowing that it will say
Timed out or
times
failed,
out.
yeah.
But then when they do inventory scans, they're like, hey, it looks like about 95% of the computers upgraded. So sorry, we're just, if you really want to get into that kind of a deep dive, there's some fairly expensive solutions you can use. We don't fall into the expensive solution that will handle that for you.
But again, we do have blogs out there that people have done it and have posted up, this is what I did. And they, like I say, 95% successful on a lot of their stuff. So
Dear Shane and Lex, regarding Agent, how are we looking on coming back out of beta, and particularly any address to the long waiting on Agent that locks deployments for internal machines? Sincerely, Jason A.
Regarding Agent, that was a sequel to Regarding Test, right? Did you ever see that movie? Regarding Test? Isn't it Regarding Test? It was Nicolas Cage? Never mind. Okay, on the Agent. He was a Secret Service agent protecting a former First Lady. Anyway. So are we looking at coming back? Right now, as it's currently constituted, we're hearing people say a lot of it does work. As we see some bugs, we'll try to fix them. This is a longer process because we're looking at some pretty big, as we try to fix this or address this, there's some fairly big changes that we have to contemplate. Like I say, our infrastructure is not quite. We tried putting a square peg in a round hole. So at this point, to continue to use it, we just ask that you limit the number of computers. Don't put it on all your computers. Waiting on Agent that locks deployments for internal machines. At this point, Jason, honestly, if you can, don't do it on an internal machine. Try to stick with it on externals. But Colby, we've addressed different causes of this error several times, and we just kind of keep chasing them. Is that right?
Yeah, we've tried to fix it several times. Like when we released Inventory 17.1, I thought that fixed a bunch of stuff, but I've heard that it broke it worse for some people. So
one thing about chasing these problems is a lot of times it will fix this particular cause, but there could be so many causes. We learned that when we introduced the reboot step in PDQ deploy, that how do we, for an agentless system, the agent disassembles after the deployment, it gets rebooted. How do we keep that persistent and work around that? We had to look for a bunch of different codes the OS would return to signify a reboot, or that a reboot was taking place. And we found out there's quite a few.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of chase that. Oh, we found this one. And then we found this one, and it took a couple of point releases to kind of nail it down. So please be patient. We apologize. As far as the bigger agent issues, like I say, there are definitely ongoing discussions about how we can handle that architecturally. So.
Hey, Shane and Lex, is there a way to push all needed Windows and Office updates on a new machine build through deploy? Calling USOClient in Windows 10 seems to want a user to be logged in. Thanks, William Z.
I haven't used USOClient. Have you, anybody? Okay, I haven't used that. I know there's, when it comes to WUAU CLT, a lot of people use the Windows Update client command. That client command, we have a lot of users that use it and they're happy with it, but it is kind of a fire and forget. It's like the old WMI rebuild commands. Mm-hmm. It will fire it off, basically send instructions to the computer to, hey, go ahead and say I need to do a Windows Update scan and go ahead and approve any deployments from your WSUS server or to the Windows Update service. But it goes out there, says I've submitted that command, and it comes back, returns successful. But it could take hours or whatever for that to take place. I've never used that. If somebody here wants to check that out, what was that? Pull that up again. Did you catch that name, Colby?
USOClient.
Okay. If anybody wants to try USOClient, if it does require that somebody's logged on, and that's a hard and fast requirement, then you're going to have somebody logged on and kick off that command as we showed earlier in the run as logged on user.
And only run if a user's logged on.
And then set the condition only run if a user's logged on. If that's the only way it can be done, you might want to do some digging to see. And of course, we look at if that does pose questions that since you're running it as the user, those questions they should pop up, but the user might have to say yes or no to them. So.
Dear Shane and Lex, is there a way to make custom field populate with scanned data? If not, then maybe a suggestion to perhaps setting a variable to a specific registry value, scan data value, and then setting the custom field to pull from that variable? Thanks, Albert D.
Colby looked up. I've got my version of an answer. Would you like to pipe in?
I talked to Albert on Slack.
Oh.
And the main thing that he's looking for is he wants to be able to see basically any field on the main collection page. So in this case, I believe he said he sets a registry value when he installs a particular piece of software, and he wants to be able to see that registry value on the main page.
Okay, that's good follow-up information, because I was going to say, well, if it's in the registry table, you've got the value. Go ahead and use it. You want to view that on the collection page. No.
So to view it on this page right here,
yeah,
that'll be a custom field. So there'd have to be
the custom fields will show up here because the custom fields are effectively in the tied to the computer table registry. There could be many registry values tied to a computer table, so that's why we don't display them. That's why we don't display applications in the collection window. So no, there's not, and I would be hesitant to script that. You could try it. It's just once you script it, you are having another process writing to the database, and there could be some corruption if it happens to be fighting with the background service. But right now, no. I mean, we introduced those custom fields because we knew that people wanted to track information that couldn't otherwise be scanned, could not automatically be placed in there, and that's why it's there. So there is not a native feature to do that. I apologize.
Yeah, you can import custom field data through the CLI, but it's not as clean as just like a registry scanner.
Sure. Yeah, because then you always have to collect that data and then import it again, stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, if you could create a process that did that, periodically pump out the data in a CSV and then
once again, you could script it, but you do run into the possibility of having it collide with the background service when trying to write to the database.
No, not if you use the CLI.
Import in the CLI, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking
That's
about.
what I was thinking. You export the CSV and then you use the CLI.
Okay, gotcha.
And import it.
Yeah,
It could be done. It's kludgy, but it could be done.
Thank you. Script it. Colby will jump on that for you.
Hey, fellers. Can you suggest a way to track which tools have been run on a machine from inventory, as well as remote commands? I'm thinking of something along the lines of the deployment section of computer. Thanks, Ryan J.
It's not natively. I don't think we capture that. We allow you to save the commands for future use, but and
As for
create
history of
tools out
what's
of them.
going
Yeah,
on?
but no. The closest way, the closest thing you could do, I think, somewhat natively here, but you'd have to be careful because you're now kind of doing what's known as a registry tattoo, is to have. And your custom tools have something that writes to the data to the registry, and then you have registry scanners that grab that. That's probably the nearest I could think of.
Could you do this? Could you make a tool that deploys a package that does that registry command? I mean, it's, you know what I mean? Because then you get the history of it was run, that, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you could you had a tool that runs the PDQ deploy command line, but
then you'd have the
there's
history
some
there,
backwards ways to do it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, at that point you're non-centrally managing or editing the registry, and it's kind of known as a registry tattoo because you could never touch it again. There's no process really that's going to delete it. So, just there are kind of ways to do it, but not natively. Sorry.
Dear Shane and Lex, does PDQ Inventory interface with ServiceDesk tools besides Spiceworks? Thanks, Mark K.
So like Spiceworks, VNC, these are some tools obviously that we've kind of just added out of the box for you. No, not natively, but if depending on what you want, there's different levels of interfacing, exploiting certain services or data. There are certain things you might be able to do with custom tools, but no, we don't. Besides like VNC and MD remote desktop and Spiceworks, no, not natively.
Depending on exactly what you're looking for, you can use an auto report to automatically export data that the other tool then imports.
That's a good point. Because you could have an auto report that writes like to a CSV file or something like that.
Yep.
It was kind of kludgy, but once again, it kind of depends on the interface that you want. Do you want to put data in there? Do you want to read data from there? So.
Dear Shane and Lex, in the never-ending rat race to get everyone updated to Windows 10, we have all hands on deck. We keep running into instances where one person is on the PC and installing individual programs, which then causes an error on deploy, not allowing installs to continue. Is there an option that I'm missing to have the install queued to wait for a running install that isn't integrated originally from PDQ, or is there such a thing? Thanks, Doug K.
I think you mean not integrated, but initiated. Well, the closest that I can think of, and if Colby wants to pipe in, but the closest I can think of is by no means gonna capture everything. But you can always look to see if there's a process of MSI exec running.
The other one I'd look for is if it needs a reboot, because a lot of times if a machine needs a reboot, sometimes it will not let you install something else.
Mm-hmm.
So if the machine has an MSI running or it needs a reboot,
And we have a collection out there on the hold computers that, as of the last scan, say they do need a reboot. In these cases, you're talking about a fairly big project. What I would absolutely do, if this were me, Doug, I would, when I submit those packages to upgrade or to install, I would, the very first one, if you're doing, however you're doing this, if you're linking packages I would reboot the computer. I don't know, reboot the target. The first thing I do is just say reboot
Start
the target.
with reboot, yeah.
Send a message out there saying, hey, hands off, and then it reboots. And then when it comes back up, it will kick off the next step or the next package that you've got going, and it will. At that point, you know that there's nobody logged on because you initiated a reboot. To me, it depends on the scope of what you're doing, but it sounds like you're doing a fairly big project. That's worth it. You can be as nice as you want by sending a message to the user saying, in the next 10 minutes, this thing is going to happen. Get ready for it.
why would you be nice?
I know.
Dear Shane and Lex, can inventory get information from WSUS to help in building reports, and what machines have been updated? Sincerely, Thomas P.
Not natively. We are considering something like that, but it hasn't come to fruition. So no, not natively. Sorry about that.
Dear Shane and Lex, is there a way to run a PowerShell script and auto add it to inventory without using the import wizard? Thanks, Paul Y.
You talking about adding the script or the output of the script?
I think what they just described is the PowerShell scanner.
Okay.
That's what I think it is. So you run some
Forthcoming,
PowerShell, get
yeah.
some data.
Yeah, we're planning on introducing what's known as the PowerShell script around here. You know, if you remember, we added a step in deploy to run WMI.
WMI, it's inventory.
Yeah.
WMI scans.
Sorry.
Yeah.
WMI scans were. I said deploy, didn't I?
You did.
Sorry. In inventory, we're gonna add a scanner for PowerShell. PowerShell step, and at that point, it's as deep as you want to go into PowerShell, and limited obviously by the community or by whatever your scripting your level of scripting is. Then there's data you can get. A lot of this, in fact, some of these, I should say, go back to some of these questions where we said not natively. There are some things you can grab with PowerShell, quite a few things that you can then put into inventory. It'll be like a registry scanner. So that's forthcoming. The world's your oyster at that point.
Dear Shane and Lex, how can I update software automatically which is not included in the package library? Thanks, Jory.
Good question, Jory. So obviously there's a lot of applications that are not in the package library. Package library, those applications have to be free. It has to comply with the EULA, at least those are our rules. So one of the powers of PDQ Deploy is that you can build your own packages. As far as the update, you're going to need to do something, whether it's manually check or get notified when these vendors have new updates. You can always build something, write something that downloads those new things, but you've got to be in charge of that. And then at that point, you can create a package and a schedule, just like you can with anything from the package library. But it's not going to be auto. You're going to have to add that extra step.
A couple of things that might help you down this path. We've got some videos on variables and making collections that'll help, so that you make one change to inventory.
Sure.
And your custom packages, your variables or your versions will change there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, so like if you're using Revit from Autodesk, if you're using Autodesk, they have a pretty decent mechanism for letting you know that there's updates available, but you still have to go out there, grab those updates.
Absolutely.
And then the variables that Lex was talking about, you just say, hey, this update changes the version from 18.1 to 18.2. You just change that in.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we did a webcast on that.
A couple weeks ago, I did a VMware tools, which is not in the package library, and here's app version for VMware. I just followed the same naming convention we used here just to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
And then, again, make a change here. All these change, and then you can reference your...
Yeah, so you'd have, in the case of Revit, you'd have a collection that says any Revit that's below this version, and that version is a variable, then that part is very helpful. All you got to do is build the package and grab the updates. But the rest of it, there's so many things that you can just auto-update, or that you can automatically handle.
Dear Shane and Lex, is it possible to schedule database optimization on PDQ Deploy, or is manually click the only option? Thanks, Jory.
Isn't that just a vacuum command for SQLite?
It is, but do you want to? Is there anything you want to? I love it when Colby looks up. Would you like to say something, Colby?
There's nothing built into Deploy to automatically schedule that, but there is a command, so you could schedule that with the Windows Task Scheduler.
Yeah.
Caveat, guys. Everybody, anytime you do database optimization, whether it's inventory or deploy, in deploy, any deployments that are running are going to be aborted.
Mm-hmm.
Any scans that are running in inventory, again, aborted. So just be aware of that when you're doing your scheduling.
Yes, because it has to have exclusive control of the database. Therefore, we shut down the background service.
Absolutely.
Also, just so you know, anytime there's an upgrade, anytime you perform an upgrade of deploy or inventory, we take that opportunity to do a database optimization. So, and then of course, yeah, you can use like Task Scheduler and use the CLI for that. But just keep in mind when you do that, you're gonna, it's going to necessarily stop and then restart that service. But anything that's active is going to be aborted.
Hey, Shane and Lex, will Office 365 build updates be added to PDQ Deploy for deployment and regular security updates? Sincerely, Jorlando D.
We are no promises right now. We are looking at ways of doing that, but no promises right now. It's a fairly intensive process of doing this. I had done this at a previous client before PDQ, and it was it was fairly intense. But we're looking at ways of doing that.
Hey, Shane and Lex, is it possible to make a script so the end user can self-prompt an installation of a PDQ package? Casper S.
So this is like a self-service portal is kind of thing? Can it be done?
There are some people that have built some services around it, but you do. I will say you can run into some licensing issues with us. At that point. And self-service portal is obviously something that we've considered, but there's absolutely no guarantee that it will happen.
If you allow an end user to actually prompt for a deployment, they become a admin at that point,
at that
so
point,
they need a license.
At that point, they're the ones that are using
Deploy.
the product. So you do run into some license issues at that point. Kelly, is that where the
you don't want to look at like
the
an
site
SL
license? The site license would work.
Yep. The SL license would be a really good fit because that allows you unlimited admins, unlimited concurrent connections on that single server installation.
Okay. So if you want, you can reach out to us and say, "Hey, I think I might need an SL license." And that was put out because we were, this was built. These products were built for the small to mid-sized businesses. We were surprised at how many of the larger networks, larger companies wanted to use this, probably because they were getting sticker shocked by the hundreds of thousands, or in many cases millions of dollars it costs for some of those bigger, high-ticket, great packet or great applications. Anyway, so we've tried to kind of accommodate them, and there were some people that were saying, okay, we'll go ahead and take, I guess we'll need 50 licenses because we have 50 people that'll use it. At that point, we're like, you know what, let's do a site license, which means you're not going to have to be chasing licenses. And in many cases, it will save you money. But if you have a site license, that's the one thing that will prevent you from running into some problems licensing-wise.
And we have a few speed round questions. What team building exercises does the PDQ team do outside the office to relieve stress? Sincerely, Mark K.
Abs.
we look at Lex's abs.
Team building.
All right.
That amazingly is a great stress reducer because immediately everyone's like, I feel better
so
about
much
my
better
life.
about myself,
Actually, it's not just your abs. It's just
me in
absorbing
generally.
Lex makes you feel better. We've done axe throwing. We've done escape rooms. We do whiskey time here.
Drinking.
There's
Drinking, yeah.
we'll go to
Dinners.
Sport. We go to sports.
Absolutely. Sporting events.
and concerts and stuff like that. But escape rooms have been used quite a few times. There's quite a few of those. And just last week we did some axe throwing. I thought that was a lot of fun. Cool.
And on the opposite end of Lex's chiseled abs, who holds the chubby bunny record in the office?
What the hell was a chubby
What is
bunny
it? Chubby
record?
record? I don't know.
I looked it up, and it's a challenge to see who can fit the most marshmallows in their mouth.
Ooh.
Lex also wins that.
I could try,
Let's
but
just say
you know what?
Lex
Here's the
wins
thing.
by
I
default.
think-
Going back to team building. All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
And finally, what is JJ's next performance? Sincerely, Mary M.
I can answer that one.
I hope so.
Yes. or I could just have you read.
Let me answer that for JJ.
Hey, here, this is the script I've got. It is Cash on Delivery. It is a play. There's no music in it, but I'm playing a British government officer. So
Okay.
yeah, he's
Give us your best accent. Come on.
like,
British government officer
No,
accent.
he's not on the spot. Huh?
not on the spot.
Okay, I guess gotta say this. I was the movie Soap Dish from 1991. It just makes fun of soap operas. Kevin Kline plays this guy, an actor who got spit out of the soap industry. So now he's doing Death of a Salesman in Florida at a steakhouse dinner, a steakhouse restaurant, but they also have a theater. So he's up there as Willie Loman, and you hear this customer, this old retired customer, screaming about his steak is too tough or something. And finally, while he's in character, you just see Kevin Kline jump down and start cutting the guy's steak while delivering his line. There you go, and then he goes back into it. It was.
I will say that I still haven't stooped that low to dinner theater
Is that the low?
yet.
No, you've done that low. It's called PDQ webcast.
Good point.
We look forward to the Willie Loman where you get off the stage and cut someone's steak.
I do make exceptions.
All right, everybody, rock on.
Okay.
Is there any more questions, or is that it? All right. Thanks for checking out. Sorry, I know there was a lot of questions that we had to say. Sorry, not natively, but we are excited for this PowerShell scanner that is forthcoming. And at that point, right now Chris is doing backflips. If Colby could do a backflip, he would do one. The world's your oyster on that one.
Absolutely.
So forthcoming. Thanks, everybody.
Catch y'all later.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Mark K. and Jory, winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to our support forums. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.